Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. We are recording here Saturday morning, September 20th at 9 a.m. My name's Ben Maldonado. As always, I'm here with my partner, Barry Hederachi. Barry, how we doing?
Doing great, doing great.
Yeah, we had another week, another rally. In today's show, we're going to keep looking at the important levels that'll tell us, does the rally keep going or do we get
hmm
something else? It's a simple playbook. I mean but that's how we do it, right? It's
Right.
week to week, level to level, and
hmm
when the levels, when the price changes, how it acts at the levels, that's when we're going to change. So for now, it's full steam ahead. I
So
see
it
you
looks
got the
like
S&P there, and looks like we're clearing that half square at 66.33.
absolutely. And taking it from the last, the big level that we had, which was 62.80, which seems like forever ago, and you can see how we sat around here through July, then we jumped above, tested, started making higher lows, moving higher. 64.50 was kind of a eventful thing because we had some cycles coming through here. And you can see what happened was, yeah, the cycles came in and the effect varies. In this case, we didn't get a correction to the downside as much as what ended up being a consolidation and look fourth wave-ish looking consolidation, and then managed to get above right there, held above. And of course, the next level is the 50% of the square, 66.33. We got there, and this was the big target we were talking about last week. If we can get above and hold above, and boy, by Friday, Thursday we straddled it. Friday we, flying colors. We came down in the morning, tested it, and boom, we're above it. So I think for the cash going into next week, Friday low is the key to watch. If we can hold above that, obviously we're above the 50% of the square, and we'll see how much higher we're going to go. And now we have a classic. I mean, the classic target would be 7,000, and it just so happens 270 degrees up is, let's say, 69. Well, it's 7,000 basically, 69.99, 7,000. So we have that to look at. And the next quarter square level is 68.17. So clearly we have room to run the next target if we can hold above this. And it looks like, if you look at the past, once we clear, and see how we manage to hold above. Now, there are times when we can get above a couple, 2, 3 days and then fail, but if it's recovered, we get going, right? So the idea of trading with these levels that we talk about is to manage your risk within the trend using these levels, until whatever the end of the trend shows up, and then we take the other leg and we deal with it the same way using the same levels and the counts and the cycles. So the fact that this cycle coming into August got blown out at 90, I mean, this was a really good square. And you can see we sat there for roughly a week and a half or so. And you can see how shallow that was, right? It was just a very shallow little consolidation, no correction into the quarter square. So the big thing is we're not getting very deep corrections. And even if we do go down for one day, next day, we're pumped back up. So the party is going, and long as it's going, fine. We just have to be there. Now the 66.33, 36, this level becomes support, and that's really, I mean, when it's exactly at a P level, it's not too difficult. I would watch Friday's low on the cash market and watch the 66.33, and that's really what we have to do. If we can hold above, obviously we can look for a run up into the end of the month. Makes sense. Uh, we have a big OpEx and everything else setting up towards the end. Isn't that JP Morgan caller and everything resetting at the end of the month, Ben? I think
Reset. So end of September, we should get that reset.
so. We could, run up into that kind of an event. But the events are events, so we'll stick by the levels that we know. 66.33 on the board for the cash market. So we'll go with that. And it's funny, all the shenanigans this week, right? Like with Fed and everything else. And And you can see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we were right below the line. Thursday powered through. Friday, we're above it. So looks pretty robust. So let's just see how we manage to stay above and how far we can go. Now, the one thing we were talking about last week and the week before, how Dow's been really strong compared to the NASDAQ. And this little triangle, we talked about, hey, this, I think there was a week before last or last week when we talked about how the NASDAQ had this lower high, but the Dow was having this little triangle, which looked super bullish. So we came out of this little fourth wave kind of a price action, did a um, little ascending triangle, and we broke to the upside. So the Dow's marching pretty textbook like, and the next resistance level is at 47, let's say 47,160. And this week we held above the quarter level pretty well. So looking pretty good. Nothing to really complain about. We get to the next level. So it looks like we have some breathing room, and we had it ever since we broke above the triangle, right? So this is the reason to watch both the Dow and the NASDAQ and the S&P and track all of this, because then you can kind of pick up little hints about the direction, and you can see what the Dow did at the square level and how we stalled, for months, literally. So once we break out, we can expect some kind of a thing, some kind of a decent move. And we did it three times. And here was a retest on the last, and we got the little triangle and move on up. And 44,842 was the level we were watching to see if Dow can hold above or not, right? And before that, we had this zone that we were looking at from back in 2024. And you can see, before the move started, we straddled around 50% mark, came back down into the zone and recovered nicely. And so you want to look at it from the flush, a little bit of a consolidation, broke above the 50%, retest, triangle, and breaking. So it looks like this is really the next target. Well, let's just say 47,200 to round it up. So let's go with that. And let's take a quick look at the December contract. So here we were 216 degrees up, basically last week. And I posted the chart talking about, we were 216 by, I think it was 108 in time. And, we get stuck for a few days, but, no problem. We pushed right above it. So now we are at 67.35, which is the next 50% level. So we cleared the 180. We did spend a little bit of time in here. We struggled along July. You can see that we bounced, came back, retest, got above quarter square, higher lows. We got the quarter square, kind of a beeline right to the 50% level. And well, if everything else picks up, cash continues to move, then obviously the December contract's going to have to get over the 67.35 level. So once it gets above that, I think then we're ready to test higher.
One thing we did get, Barry, from that
Mhm.
from that April 7th low, I was looking at the close this morning. We did
Mhm.
get a 225 by 120 on Friday.
225 by 120. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's decent.
Yeah, I mean it's not a cardinal square, but it's a pretty
Mhm.
good square.
It's something
So
to
that
watch.
it's
Yeah.
something to watch. Yep.
And we want to make sure, the one thing we want to watch is to see how we get above this. And obviously if we get above it, we can run. And it's you don't see this often, but it's incredible how we got these three drives and all these things and the end of a huge move and all the things. And then what do we get? We get one big fake downside and then continues to go back up. So that, I think it shows a lot more strength once these patterns get blown out. Just like when squares get taken out, then the upside is opens up even a little bit wider, right? So I think there's more to watch, more to run, but let's watch the levels. So next week, you guys have the cash levels and you have the Dow. And here we have 67.35 for the futures ES. What we want to see here is, if we continue this higher, obviously, if cash is going to continue above the cash level, ES is going to follow and will be above the 67.35. And last week was also this the rollover. So, there's always something strange till we get to the full traction on the December the new contract, which and you can see how, we really started getting liquid not too long ago. But let's watch the 67.35. And if we can get above it, great. If we can't get above it, we're straddling this, then, we have to be a little bit cautious here. We want to make sure we can clear it. And then it opens up to that 7,000 and that we saw on the cash chart, right? So,
No question.
so that's it for December. Yes. Here's the NASDAQ. The big deal with the NASDAQ was, well, big deal before was the 50% square here. And you can see we got through it. We bounced around. We knocked on it a few times and managed to get above and stay above. Then we started running. So the next target is the 135 level, and that's at 25,160, 25,160, which with this kind of a run looks like we can hit it on Monday, right? By the close or a couple hours after the open. But what if we could get above that? Well, that opens up my entire another leg, getting up 26,000, 26,600 around there. So let's watch this level. So a couple of things to watch in the futures market, right? So this is the continuous chart. This is not the December, but let's watch it. So 25,160. And this is the continuous E-mini. 64.65 was the level that we were watching. And you can see that's where we did the little bit of a triangle, kind of like the Dow. So this is right at the rollover, and the rollover popped it up above. And the next level up is 68.32. So it does open up a little bit, 68.32. So we're ready to go. And I think last week the talk was, we want to be able to hold above this on any kind of a pullback since we started creeping above it, right? So obviously we held above and no real pullback to speak of. We're just running straight up. And so that's it. So the next target would be 68.32. And the good news was, once we cleared it, it really continued. It was very, very strong. This is a calendar day chart. Again, this is we don't not a lot to talk about other than we had this 50% we've been watching. Again, just like the other chart, we managed to clear it, and then we had the rollover. Here we are, right? Incredible levels, and 67.55, 56, 240 degrees up. So that's another level we can watch. Not as important right now, but they can be useful if we get a big reversal during the week. But as far as the continuous chart goes, as long as we're above 66.37 quarter square, market's in very good shape. Obviously, if we're going to talk about treat this like gold, I'd say anything above 65.17, any correction. I mean, would be a healthy correction, right? Getting back into 65.17, 6,500, and then run up higher. So even up to here, market's in good condition. Down to 62.84, you can see we're well above the old highs. So this is running hard. And we had a good consolidation period here, July, through summer, even though it looks like we made a lot of progress. Just think, July, it took 2 months to get to half a square. And in September, basically, we did it in 2 weeks. So we're speeding up. and I think that's to be expected after a big consolidation. Anything you want to add to that before we move to the weekly and we can look at the 30-minute?
No, it's just it's those levels, we want make sure if we stay above the levels, you got to play the long side.
Yep, that's it.
And then the only other thing is that we do have a Gann natural cycle uh,
A big one,
coming
right?
up. Yeah, coming up on Monday, which is the autumnal equinox.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing fancy. It's a change of seasons, but if you go back and look at change of seasons, you sometimes you get a decent move and a decent turn. So watch that coming early next week.
All right, so that's that. Let's move on to take a look at the 30-minute bread and butter chart, what I should call it. So 15th, 66.56 was the level we were watching going into next week. The idea was if we can hold above or not. So by the time Monday rolled around, we were above it, well above it. Managed to basically run straight into the 66.92, which was the other next level. Came back. The correction from that, the pullback, was to 66.56 through the 16th. That all looked good. It tested pretty well. And then with the news, we came all the way down to 66.10, which has been on the board. That's level it's an old level, but it's still working, as you can see. So 66.10 held it, bounced right back. So the key level, the solid level here, solid line is a full square. And you can see once we, took the shock out of the news, little triangle formed and it started to break up 50% of the square, ran all the way into that little zone up here, corrected. On net, we were able to hold above 66.92, other than a couple of spikes here and there. And you can see the trend is basically, if you can drop a trend line, and we've been basically making higher lows, right? So, after the little dip on the 19th, the overnight came right back to 67.10, little recheck at 66.92, and we're back into the 67.10 range. And I thought that would be a good place to finish. But we pushed all the way to 67.28, which is the next full square. So basically, we did the entire 50% of a square, half a square on Friday. So it's very strong, and which also sets up an ABC. So, I mean, this is for the short term. I wouldn't read too much into it. But the square above that was the ABCD was right above the zone, right? That's part of why the zone was there. And we managed to get back into pretty much where the ABCD zone, ABCD
You
target
could
was.
you could put in a decent Gartley there too.
Definitely. Here's the
Yeah, there's
starting
your
point,
X.
right?
Yep, yep.
So let's see what happens. But for next week, obviously 67.28 is a key level to watch. If we can get above that, then all those stories about it on the daily chart will pan out, that we can move higher. I guess once we take out this 67.46, 67.50 level, usually this is kind of where a lot of gamma builds up. So let's see what happens there. After that, on with the show, right? 67.28 is the key level to watch early part of the week, because if we settle above, it looks pretty good. If we can't settle above, obviously we're going to consolidate here. Let's check it. But if you're going to follow this, if you guys want to follow this day to day, check us on X. I'm posting stuff every morning for the S&P, and Ben posts for the NASDAQ and all the markets that we follow all day long, right, Ben? So there's a lot of info, and I think
Things
it's a lot,
happen.
yeah, and it's a lot easier to keep up with it between shows, because we're just a once a week show. All right, let's take a quick look at the weekly cash. 64.40 was the level we've been sort of talking about. It really should be 64.50. And you can see, we ran up. We spent a good month just sort of pushing against it, testing it, testing it. Then we straddled it week before last. And then we talked about, hey, if we can hold above this level, market's going to be in pretty good shape. And we held above nicely. And we're starting to move higher. So that's that. Looking at let's go to the continuous chart weekly. Here, we had a little bit of a zone between 6,400 and 65.30. 65.30. And also here, we came up, we got stuck here for about a month before, right below 64. Then we got into the zone, about a month of consolidation there. And then last week we started to break out, right? So once above a level, the odds are we're going to continue to move. Usually after a retest. So here I guess we didn't need a retest because consolidation was so tight. Sort of like here, we consolidated very tightly around the 50% level once we took off straight to the full square. Basis the weekly continuous chart, 68.92 is the 50% level. That's it for the indices. Let's move back to some of the other charts. Well, bonds, you nailed the bonds with that ABCD last week.
Yeah, we got the reversal there, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. So what happened was, yes, we got the ABCD target fulfilled, and what happened is we're still above the level, right? So the 116 and a half, 116, 16 is where the 45-degree line comes in, and we're sitting right on top of it. So I think the thing to watch here is if we can hold above, which would tell us that we're going to go higher, probably at least, maybe 120. If we slip below, then we're back in consolidation, or we might have to bonds will start to get weaker. But the key level to watch is the 16.14, 16.16 and a half level, and we're right there as of Friday. So let's just watch it for next week, and it's easy because it's just one level to watch. And on the weekly chart, I talked about how even if we take that 45 out, the 144 is going to be really important. And that's really the level for anything long term. That's about 116, 119, 16, 119 and a half. So we didn't quite get to that. We're starting to reverse. We had an outside reversal basis the weekly. So that might be it for that.
Yeah, that's big.
Right. Yeah. So watch it breaking the daily level. I think that would be the signal to watch. Let's move on to crude. Well, this is starting to look kind of cute, but not a whole lot to do. Stuck in this little tight range between 61.61 and 64.75. And, it's the lower range. So, but I was looking at some long-term crude charts, and I'll tell you, there is a break coming. We just have to wait to time it correctly. Obviously, this kind
It's
of move,
building up energy right now.
it's really building up a lot. And this is sort of how I remember we were talking about gold when it was just going sideways,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody was really hot on gold. And we were talking about how this big move is coming and there's going to be inflation and blah, blah, blah. And of course, eventually it happened. And not that eventually it happened, but it happened as we were talking about it over the years, right? So it's not like this is, I mean, anybody can say, obviously, crude's going to go up one day. No, I think it's going to be very soon. I would say less than 180, probably within a window of 180 days. So we'll just watch it. So it's not happening yet. We don't want to be in the market just holding the bag, right? So we'll see what happens. Whatever shenanigans that happens here, let it finish up. We've always had a marker on the board, so 64.75 is we want to see it above that. If it's not above that, we're not really interested on the long side. And this week, this last month and a half, we've been just neatly above the 61 level and below the 65. So we'll continue to watch that and wait for some kind of wait for the signs. Looking at the weekly, I mean, this little shaded box is sort of rock solid area that I've been watching, and you can see we're starting to break through it. And I thought this flush would be enough to get things going, and we got something going, but then came right back to the base, the breakout area. Now we're slipping a little bit low, and this could be, this can happen. So let it finish up whatever it's doing, because I know this pattern has to break to the upside. So it's just a matter of waiting for that to happen, and week by week we'll see it as it's unfolding, and that's what we have to do. Here's a gold chart looking amazing. Here's the last triangle that broke out. We talked about it last week. 3608, 3787, 89 is resistance, and we're doing pretty well hanging on to the quarter of the square. So, and now, I think once right through here, there's so much talk about gold. So let's see how we do. Above 3608 looks pretty good. It's been looking great ever since we broke out of the triangle and this 3424 level, which was the 450 degrees up from the low in November back in 22. So that's that. Not giving a lot of trouble when markets are running. It's easier to trade, obviously, right? Trend is your friend. Gold weekly. Okay, we talked about this, like how gold is coming into some kind of resistance level. So it's really between here and 3,800. So 3704 to 3804 is the zone of resistance. So let's see how we do here. We do have a weekly cycle count coming in October, late October. So that's we have a little bit of time for that. But we're pushing up into this, expect some resistance in this $100 range once we get above 3704. That's it for the weekly gold. Not much to add. Well, obviously, if we can't hold above 3704, that's a bit of a warning.
Yeah, if we get stuck under there, I have a monthly half square at 3514, so that's right in the same area of your 3502 half square. So that would be a reasonable pullback.
Correct this number, 3704. So once we're above that, still not out of the danger zone, but we have a little bit to deal with right in that zone. But we'll see how it happens. Looks like we have a lot of power, so you can power through it, like the S&P has been doing so well. All right, let's move on to silver. Silver is doing amazingly. So finally out of the gates, $40 silver was it. Broke out. Nice little consolidation. Right back up into 43, above 43, almost 44. And key level here, the 50% level we've been talking about is around $42, 42 and a quarter. So 42 and a quarter above is great. This was a good pullback, came right into the middle of the consolidation, that back. So it was doing okay. The target we talked about was 44 and a half for the upside. Let's go to the weekly. Weekly silver has plenty of room. $45 silver is what we're looking at, 45 and a half. And support level at 90 is at 40. So 40, get a $5 range there. Quarter square would come in right about 42 and a half. So watch that. We're breaking above the quarter square here.
Hey Barry, you were talking about crude. Just look at silver from 2021 to 2023, 2024. Frustratingly sideways, right?
Yep. Yep.
And then when it goes, it goes.
Yeah, exactly. And here's these flushes that we always talk about, before a big move, there's a flush and bam, held at 45 and then run. But now, yeah, this is pretty good. And boy, I'm hearing silver everywhere. I think even my mom wanted to get in on silver. So public is getting pulled in at this point. All right. So let's take a look at copper. Copper's doing okay. It's been just like we've been talking about. We talked about copper finding support here and starting to move higher. If we can get above the 50%, we're in pretty good shape. And it's doing a very, very nice corrective move. I would say corrective in relation to the drop, but it's moving higher. Once we get above the quarter square, I think we'll be in pretty good shape. And the quarter square level, you guys need to know, is 470. Take a look at the weekly. We're above the 144 level from the low in 2020. And the next target is really 480. So once we get there, we'll have to do the review. Up until then, market looks okay. Metals are looking great, so we just got a little bit behind. Next, we have Bitcoin. We talked about the 50% level here last week, and 618 coming up right about that early part of the zone, and I was expecting Bitcoin to go and test that and then correct again. Instead, we're consolidating, so that's a little bit of a sign. We want to see how we spend that time. Is it correcting or is it consolidating? It's consolidating. Now, once this consolidation or the other path was a correction was over, we should move higher. So let's watch to see how that works out. We might still be able to correct a little bit before moving higher, but resistance is still there. 618 is still 618, and we have that resistance zone. It would take some kind of an news event or something to break out cleanly. Otherwise, it's going to grind through this. But let's see. Not a whole lot of trending last week, so let's wait to see what happens this week. But the story is pretty much the same. We were looking for some kind of a correction. Ideally, coming into the 1/3 line would be great, which was at 112, 750, 760. If we can hold about that, we should be able to move. But the key thing is, we really have to clear this zone. Unless we can clear this, Bitcoin's not exactly in firm ground. Even though we held here, there are cycles that came in. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the very interesting thing too is that, NASDAQ, S&P, Dow, they're all ripping and making new highs and Bitcoin's not.
Yeah. Yep. Kind of stuck below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
it had been leading before.
mhm, mhm. So yeah, let's see what happens. But that's sort of how I would frame that, just to keep that in mind for next week. Dollar finally came down and flushed it out the low. So we have a false break here.
That was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really well done. It was, as far as false breaks go, yeah, it was
Yep.
classic textbook. Now we just have to, if you guys want to watch this, basically have to just get out this trend line, and that would give us this little triangle, break to the upside, retest, and maybe move higher. Um, that's what it looks like. Let's see. Maybe there's a little bit more weakness, but this reversal looks good, and the false break is classic. So we'll follow it through like that. And if you look at the weekly looks really interesting because here we came back to basically test the square low, and I mean it's been a big move since the first pop off the square. And we managed to quickly get out of there, the little hammer pattern. So let's see, almost a hammer, but let's see what happens. 95.50, if we really sit through and everything sort of goes, then 95.50 zone is very strong. And we'll see what happens there. But all the classic, we had the trend line break, everything happened here, along with that false break. So I'm thinking it's a real false break. And if we take out this week's high, we can move higher in a clean way. Let's watch for that. And of course, Euro is, this is unbelievable for me mentally if I think about it. but far as the chart goes, yes, we could also have a false break since we only, we did just a quick reversal the next day. We had a break up, next day reverse, basically 3 days down. So that's in place. We almost got to 180. I would say it's close enough for business. So it could be in place. All right, let's watch. I want to see what the next lower high, where that comes in. But
And
now,
Barry, that
mhm.
looks like a price in time too, like a 180 by 180, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it is. And the thing here is it might not be 180, but it came in on the 1 by 1, right? So as you guys know, we don't do a whole bunch of Gann angles, but the reason we don't is with the squares, we can eyeball it, right? So we don't have to have a bunch of lines all over the screen. And that's one of the benefits of using squares. Once you get used to it, you don't really have to draw them because you can already see them. That being said, this is what I meant by the 1 by 1, right? So we kind of lost it here, came back up, we kissed it from below. And no, that is price and time. Anytime we touch the one by one. So let's see. Let's see how we do there.
No, I think your call on the dollar looks really good. You know, that 144 by 144 on the weekly was the low. Here's your
Hmm.
false break that sets up, the misdirection before the big move the other way.
Yeah, I think we ought to expect it versus trying to buy this, you know. There
Right,
are times to buy, there are times not to hold the bag. So
right.
um, we'll be a little bit cautious here and move with it as we're comfortable because I'll try trust these levels and the patterns, right? So we'll have to
And
just go with
also,
it.
looking at the intermarket stuff, the reversal in bonds is saying, okay, interest
Uh-huh.
rates are going higher, which would support the dollar. The dollar saying the dollar looks stronger. So you're getting that confirmation there.
Mm, good point. Very good point. Yes. So let's watch it. This is very curious now, especially since we did square out, not at the main square, but it did tap the one by one. You guys can see right there. All right, what do we got left here? You're going to cover natural gas?
It's just on. I'll show the daily because we're pulling back off that
Yeah.
original run
Mm,
up.
okay. So yeah, I think again, this is a little bit like crude now. All the energy, we got to kind of wait till these things ramp up. For now, we've been just consolidating in this tight range. Lastly, Hang Seng, we got above 2610 and we managed to hold above. So I think it looks good. What can I say? It looks higher from here. It also had a little bit of a triangle break, but yeah, we'll continue to watch it. As long as we're above this 26,000, let's say 230, we're in pretty good shape. For 26,000, 230. There we go. All right, that's all I have. Let me put it back to you. Let's take a deeper look at the NASDAQ, some of the commodities, and one of the really active markets, right? Are you going to look at coffee today a little bit?
Yeah, yeah.
All
Believe it
right.
or not, we've been
Mm-hmm.
bouncing coffee from long to short, and it looks like
Mm-hmm.
it's setting up short again.
Yeah. So it's worth watching.
Hmm.
Let's get over. Let me put it back to you. And if you guys like our work, please remember to like, subscribe, and share, and hit the alerts so you guys know when we upload these podcasts. Well, we talked about the 24,260 level, and here we go.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. There's your check, right? Gap over. There's your check at the low on, I think that's, yeah, on Fed day. There's your check on the low of 24,263, and then boom,
Yep.
reverse higher.
Even with the rollover, it all worked out.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
The squares know the rollovers are coming.
Yep.
Future rollovers. Anyway, it's the focus still is the 24,263. As long as we're above that, we can push up to this 360, this full square at 25,720.
Hmm.
We did this, we were doing this triangle. Once we broke the triangle, we said, okay, we got to get above 24,263. You had the rollover that did it, and then the check back. So this week, watch 24,263. If we hold that, look up because we're heading higher. Let's look at I wanted to show the calendar day too.
Hmm.
It's an interesting look here on the calendar day where we're coming into the 450
Hmm.
at, for rounding purposes, we could call it at 25,000.
Right.
But you can see we're coming into this price and time area.
Pretty
The
hard.
yeah, timing is September 26th, so this coming week.
Hmm.
On this is again, this is a calendar day, 90 square. But you can see this is an area we want to watch. We want to watch this 24,9, 25,000 area
Hmm.
and see how we do there. Specifically because it's 450, right? That's
Right.
the derivation of the 90.
When speaking of 90, I was going to mention this and I forgot. It's that if we take the tariff flow in April
Hmm.
and if you go 180, we're going to be in October. So that, if we
Hmm.
can run up into that 180, boy, that's going to be something to watch to see how we handle that.
Hmm.
So what I mean is if you, I mean, this square is fine, but if you just take it from that tariff flow, April low, we're going to be 180 smack in the middle of October. So,
I see you. Yeah, right there, early October, right in
hmm
here,
yep. So that's
right
the
in
next
there.
big event. That's a big cycle coming.
Absolutely.
Hmm
But you can see it's been a hell of a move, and here we're finishing off. The question is, where do we finish? We
Yeah.
don't know, but we know where the levels are.
I mean,
If we
this
get,
part of the leg is practically vertical.
yeah, and if we get stuck under this 25 area, we know, okay, back off a little bit. We could do this
Hmm
or we could do this, right?
Right.
We don't know which one, but if we get stuck under, we know it's one of those twos coming, something like that.
Mhm.
If we, on the other hand, if we get above, then we go again, which is, it's a possibility. You have to keep your mind open to the possibility that we could run another half square. We could go up to this 26,500, 26,400 area. If it stays above this part, this full square, that's the odds favor. We're going to go higher still. So keep your mind open to the possibilities. All right, let's check the weekly, see what that's showing us. All right, that's showing us this this week we got the clearance, right?
Yep.
It's blast off on a weekly because look how much time we spent there.
And that's why
Five,
we've been cautious, because look at this weekly. What are you going to do with that? And it
yeah,
really didn't move,
no,
basically.
5, 6 weeks. We're just
Mhm.
hitting our head on the roof on the ceiling, and now we're above. And so as long as we stay above, again, rounding, call it 24,000. We got basically 27,000 in the sights on a weekly basis. It
Yep.
was interesting last week early, we were setting up to where the monthly, weekly, and the daily Barry were all like topping right here,
hmm
which is the 1/8 line. And we know that, a lot of times it'll run over by an eighth and then reverse.
hmm
And I said, oh, this would be interesting if it's set up. And then, of course, Friday we pushed through with the strong
Right.
move higher.
Right.
So now we got to just look at these two areas as key. That's weekly. Let's take a quick look at the monthly. Here's your monthly. Now we're blowing through the 180, right?
hmm
So again, you gotta pay attention. 24,000 is the key here. As long as we hold 24,000, 26,800 is on the path.
hmm
Even though we had 45 months high to high, right? It's
Well, we're
push.
not done with it yet. So let's
No,
see
we're
how
not
that
done with the
45
month.
goes. Yeah.
Right. And we have, 5 or 6 trading days left in the month.
Mm.
So a lot can happen, but we want to, just be cognizant of when you clear these levels, you can keep going. Odds favor you're going to keep going. Anything you want to add here on any calendar day chart? You
Well,
know,
I'm just
tr
looking at the monthly, anytime we've gotten these vertical moves, always look at what follows after the vertical ends.
mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, go back to the beginning, to that first vertical, like tiny little vertical where your upper line begins. The
This one
upper, yeah,
here.
right there. After the
Yeah.
vertical, what happened? Okay.
Yep.
And anytime it goes vertical, just forget, just super vertical. Yeah.
Like this one. This
Yep.
was into the 22 low.
And then coming into December to April.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
now we go again, but now we're even more vertical, right? We're practically straight up. So,
It will be interesting. But we know the levels, right? That's the
yeah.
thing. We don't have to predict. We just know when it crosses the level and it clears the level, the odds flip, right? And then you know which side to play because you want to have an edge when you're in there.
And when we break these upper lines, we want to go all in. I'm
There
just
you go.
kidding.
Push them in.
Well,
It's
it's a sign of exhaustion too when we break a channel to the upside, but we only know if it's exhaustion once it reverses, but it's something to keep in mind.
yeah, I mean, here's a perfect example in April, right?
Yeah,
We
exactly. Yeah.
we broke the channel and that was it, the exhaustion, and then we
Mm-hmm.
reversed. So we'll watch it, but we know above 24,000, good things are going to happen for the bulls, right? Below 24,000, good things are going to happen for the bears, and that's the whole premise of the squares. All right, let's move on to Bitcoin and see what we've got here. a lot like you. Can we clear this, 119,800, call it.
Mm-hmm.
That is the key. If we cannot clear that, we have a lower high and we should roll over again. So we found support where we thought we would, right around the 108 level. We had all this structural support and we had the full square here. So that the odds favored that it would hold, and it did. And now we're coming up in the next big test area, and that's at 119,790. So we got to see us clear that, to get the next leg up and have this 130 plus in play. Let's look at the weekly here because we had a big cycle hit there. This weekly chart is just working so well. I mean, look at how
Hmm.
harmonic it is, Barry, on that 72.
Yeah.
So we had this full cycle come in, a half square correction. Now we're bouncing higher. The question is, do we hold this steep, 2 by 1 trend line, or are we going to break it and head back down again? As long as we're not making that a higher high, Bitcoin is vulnerable.
Yep. Totally.
Both daily and weekly. Now, if
Hmm.
we push through, right, the tune changes, and you can use that daily to, you don't have to wait for the weekly. You can use that daily. It's that 119,790 area. You clear that,
Yeah.
odds flip.
Yeah.
Then you got to get on the bull train. The monthly's not showing much, but we can take a quick look at it just so you see the monthly. We're straddling this 111 for the last 3 months. So next month, maybe we got a shot. If we can close up in here next month, we got a shot at clearing the this 111 level, the full square. And if so, then 130 is opening up.
Hmm.
What kills me is about all the predictions like, oh, it's going to be 200,000 by, December, or 150,000 by this date. What are they basing that on?
Hope.
I guess, I
Hopium.
guess, but with the square, we can make those calls like that. Okay, this is more likely based on the price versus that square.
Hmm.
But I always laugh when I see all the Bitcoin predictions because I'm like, okay, based on what? It's going to hit this by this, based on what? At least we got a basis to say it here. We know if we get a monthly close over 111, 130 is more likely than
Exactly.
than than 93. And that's the premise of the squares. Anything else you want to add on Bitcoin?
Yeah, we're good. I think we talked enough about the high and yeah, we're good.
Okay. Let's talk about commodities. So this week it was interesting. There was some decent developments on sugar we talked about last week. We had a false break. We had a nice bounce higher off of that false break. And now I'm looking to see, do we get a higher low? And then we'll do a full rundown on sugar when that happens and bring it to your attention. Let's first look at the grains. We're just going to take a brief look at them because not a lot happened really. We're still waiting for, a definitive move here. You can see it's just we've been grinding for like the last month, you know, went up, now it's been sideways. Went up, now it's been sideways. So it's not negative. It's just there's not a lot to add to the story yet, because we want to see us clear this. We made a higher high, right? Higher high than that. That's good. Now we're sort of correcting what's going to happen with this correction. Are we going to get a deep correction into here, right? And then we know we can buy that reversal, or is this going to be sort of these stair step higher continue until we get to this 446? So not a lot to add, just that the bull case is still there. The low looks good. We had the whole shebang. We had the false break. We had the, full square reversal. So the story's still intact. It just, we need to see a couple more scenes before we can, make the next move in corn. So that's corn. Let's check out soybeans. Same story with beans. Beans even looks more sideways, when you just look at this chart. But look at the higher lows are the thing that got us here, right? Now we're really battling at this 1035 area. And it looks like it wants to, come down. If we do a little ABCD here, that would be ideal. An ABCD and a reversal, not too far from the lows on Friday. If we
Maybe
get
flush
that,
out that September consolidation there.
right, exactly. Flush that out. That would be around 1011. 1011 would be a completion of the ABCD. It could even come down and take out these lows here, scare people, and then get a reversal. So a lot like corn, the bull case is still there. We're early in this move, so we want to see where this first pullback low comes in that we can then use to try and catch, the third wave in both of them. Anything you want to add to corn or beans here?
No, we're good. Just have to be patient.
Yeah, it's not a lot added to the story this last week, but we'll watch it and still very positive on it. Let's go to one that's been really active for us recently, and that's coffee. So coffee originally we called out a short here when we made that lower high. Then we had, square outs. We had, 46 high to low, false break. We called out, once we did this ABCD, we said, okay, this looks
Broke the
good for a
triangle.
long. Yep, got this huge move up. And here we go. We got a reversal and a lower high and a false break with these highs. I mean, so this is setting up again what looks to be another potential short. So what are we doing here? So we got the first push down, right? Now we want to say, do we get a lower high, right? Where does this next leg higher come in? If we get a lower high, it gives us a really good shot at another short. This is a 2 by 1 off the low. And you can see, look at where the low came in, pretty much holding the 2 by 1. So obviously, if we can't get above 380, it's going to be really, really weak. If we do get above 380, we want to see, do we put in a lower high here?
Mhm.
But I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention because I think it's potentially setting up for another short. Let's take a look at the weekly. Look at how this thing ran, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Right up into the full square, lower high compared to the high that we made here. And look where we stopped on the way down, right at the full square. So on the weekly basis, what we want to see is some sort of move up that gets stuck under 384. Remember, daily, it's 380. So we could say the range for this, where we want to see this thing top out, is this 380 to 385 area. If it does and rolls over and we get the setup on the lower time frame, I think it's a good short.
Yep. Yep.
Again, let's check the monthly. Monthly shows a similar picture, right? Came down, found support, bounced up, sellers jumped in again, giving us the lower high. So monthly basis, if we get stuck under 403, that means, the pressure is going to be down to that 343 level. And if we just did, I was just looking at this, Barry, if we just did an ABCD, the move is pretty nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back down to under 280 into that really strong support area. You can
Right.
see how the monthly support where highs used to be back in 97, 2011, early 22. We'll be back into this 270 to 280 area, which that's a hell of a nice move from here.
Yep. Yep.
So this thing's been good to us recently. Let's watch. Let's see how it sets up. Watch the daily. See, do we get stuck under this 380 to 385 on a bounce? Or alternatively, do we make a lower high and reverse? Anything else jump out to you in looking at the coffee?
No, it looks good. I think you covered it really well. We got the resistance, we got the levels, everything's in place. We're good. We're good.
Yeah. Just figure out which options or which contracts you want beforehand because this thing moves fast. All right. Lastly,
Yep.
let's take a look at nat gas. We said we'd look at that, see what we did, what we're doing here. So the key thing is we had this ABCD down. We reversed up. Now we're doing another eight little A, B, C, D down. If we hold this 282 and get a higher low and reverse, we could get a decent move higher here.
Mhm.
So while it's not, robust, if you look back, it's been, basically sideways for a while. Like you were saying, Barry, it's a lot like crude. It's building up this energy for a move, and the move looks to be higher based on, we're seeing this series of higher lows come in.
Yeah. Yep.
It's sort of quietly building. But let's watch 282 this week. Holding that would be super bullish and reversing. But we definitely don't want to see this low get taken out. That August low. And that's it on the commodity side.
All right.
Um,
Good
it's
job.
yeah, it's an interesting time. The metals are doing super, super well. The sugar looks like it could set up, and of course the grains, corn and soybean being the leaders there, look like again they're trying to turn and become in a bullish pattern. So the overall view in commodities is, I don't think we're going to see um, much lower inflation if these commodities have anything to say about it.
Yeah.
But we'll
Right.
see. We'll
Hmm.
see how it plays out.
Yep.
And that's it for me. Listen, we always appreciate your support. Everybody, likes these videos and shares them and does all that kind of stuff. Please continue to do that as we try to grow the channel and rest up this weekend and get ready for fall. Fall starts on Monday. Let's see if that Gann natural cycle brings in any changes or acceleration to the current trends, because that's a lot of times that's what will happen, when you're in these manic phases. So let's watch and see what happens. Good job, Barry, on your review. We got the key levels. Now it's just time to execute when we see price do what's supposed to do against the level.
Everything's pretty fairly defined for next week. I think we know,
Yeah, yeah.
all the levels, everything else. Yeah. All right. Great job. We'll see you guys next week. And thanks for the comments. Keep them up and have a great weekend.
We'll talk to you next week,
Mhm.
everybody.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye.